You push open the heavy glass doors of the retail bank branch. The fluorescent lights overhead emit a faint, sterile hum. You walk past a row of empty cubicles toward a red plastic ticket dispenser near the entrance. You pull a number 42 and sit down on a stiff, cold vinyl chair, waiting for your turn in line. Around you, people are staring at their phones, shuffling folded utility bills, or watching the silent promotional ticker flash across a wall-mounted monitor. Upgrade to our Platinum Premium checking today. Behind the thick plexiglass counter, 3 tellers work with practiced mechanical indifference. When your number is finally called, you step up to the window. You deposit your bi-weekly paycheck, check your balance, and ask a simple question about waiving a $12 monthly service fee. The teller glances at her screen, clicks a few keys, and offers a rehearsed, unapologetic smile. "I'm sorry," she says. "Our system requires a minimum daily balance of $1,000 to waive the maintenance fee. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" You walk out of the branch feeling invisible. You are not a person to the institution. You are a row in a SQL database, an account number tied to a credit score, and a dependable generator of microfees. But what if you walked into that exact same banking institution 10 years later? Not with a paper check and a $12 dispute, but with $100,000 in liquid cash? What if you walked in with $1 million, $5 million, $10 million? Here is the quiet, unspoken reality that traditional school never taught you. Banks do not treat all human beings the same. The financial system is not a level playing field. It is a rigid, multi-tiered caste system governed by algorithms, asset thresholds, and information asymmetry. At the bottom of the ladder, the bank is a predator designed to extract profit from your mistakes. At the middle of the ladder, the bank is a merchant trying to trap your capital in low-yield financial products. But as you cross certain mathematical milestones especially, the critical $100,000 threshold, the entire machinery of the banking world flips upside down. The rules change, the fees vanish. The tellers disappear, replaced by private suites, dedicated relationship managers, securities-backed lines of credit, and bespoke financial favors that regular people don't even know exist. Welcome to Peak Ledger. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on how banks treat you at every level of wealth from $0 to $10 million in YIM. $100,000 is the single most important financial threshold of your entire life. Let's begin at the bottom of the pyramid. At level 1, your checking account balance hovers anywhere between $0 and $5,000. You are living like the majority of the working population, paycheck to paycheck, balancing monthly rent, utility bills, and grocery costs against a deposit schedule you don't control. To the untrained eye, retail banking at level 1 looks like a public utility, a safe place to store your cash and pay your bills. When you examine the balance sheets of major commercial banks, a darker mathematical truth emerges. Level 1 customers are not viewed as investment partners. They're classified as profit centers through fee extraction. In the banking industry, accounts with less than $5,000 hold very little net interest value. Because your average daily balance is small, the bank cannot make significant money by lending your deposits out as commercial mortgages or treasury yields. Therefore, the institution monetizes you through friction. Consider the architecture of the level 1 checking account. $12 monthly maintenance fees if your balance drops below $1,000. It's $35 overdraft fees if a recurring subscription hits your account 12 hours before your payroll, direct deposit clears. $3 out-of-network ATM fees and wire transfer fees that cost $30 just to move your own money across town. When you walk into a bank branch at level 1, the entire physical environment is engineered to minimize labor cost. You wait in a standing line or pull a paper ticket. The tellers you interact with have no authority to override policy. Their computer monitors run on automated customer relationship management software that flags your profile with a simple score. If you ask for a fee waiver, the teller must request manager approval, which is governed by a strict annual quota. You are repeatedly reminded of the bank's rules, closing times, and hold periods on checks. The psychological toll of level 1 is subtle but devastating. It conditions you to view financial institutions with anxiety and defensiveness. You check your banking app with a sense of dread, wondering if an unexpected charge has pushed you below a minimum balance threshold. You feel like a supplicant asking a bureaucracy for permission to use your own income. Most people assume that if they just work a little harder and accumulate $10,000 or $20,000 in savings, this predatory friction will disappear. But as we move up to level 2, you quickly discover that the bank simply changes its weapon of extraction. You've disciplined yourself. You worked overtime, cut back on discretionary spending, and built a solid emergency fund. You now hold between $10,000 and $50,000 across your checking and savings accounts. You walk into your bank branch feeling a new sense of pride and stability. And instantly, you notice that the treatment has shifted. You are no longer directed to the teller line. Instead, a well-groomed employee in a tailored suit greets you by name and invites you to sit down in a glass-walled cubicle. His name tag reads Personal Banker or Financial Relationship Specialist. He offers you a bottle of spring water and smiles warmly. You've built up a substantial cash balance, he tells you, leaning forward. We hate seeing your money sit idle in a standard checking account. Have you considered speaking with our in-house investment advisor about putting this cash to work? At level 2, you feel as though you have graduated. But here's the stealth wealth reality check that separates financially literate individuals from the average consumer. The personal banker inside that glass cubicle is not a fiduciary wealth manager. He's a commissioned sales representative operating under aggressive retail product targets. At this wealth threshold, the bank recognizes that you have surplus liquidity. Their primary corporate objective is to capture your capital at the lowest possible cost while cross-selling you for generating retail products. What is the personal banker actually offering you? First, a standard high-yield savings account or money market account that pays a meager fraction of a percent in interest. While the bank turns around and lends your deposits out to borrowers at 7, 8, or 24%. Second, a proprietary bank-managed mutual fund loaded with a front-end sales load or a 1.5% annual expense ratio. Third, a premium credit card that carries a $250 annual fee in exchange for airline points you may never optimize. The illusion of level 2 is that you are receiving personalized wealth management. In reality, you are undergoing an institutional yield bleed. Your capital is safe from the $12 maintenance fees of level 1. But it is slowly evaporating against inflation while the bank harvests the spread. You were treated with politeness, but you are still a consumer being sold retail inventory. To break free from the retail banking floor entirely, you have to reach a mathematical milestone that alters the structural physics of your money. You have to reach level 3. Why did late billionaire investor Charlie Munger famously declare, "The first $100,000 is a bitch"? But you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. Why do the wealthiest investors, financial mathematicians, and stealth wealth entrepreneurs all point to $100,000 as the single most critical threshold of your financial life? There are two distinct reasons. One is mathematical, and the other is institutional. Let's examine the mathematics first, before you reach $100,000. The growth of your net worth is almost entirely dependent on your physical labor and your savings rate. If you save $10,000 a year and earn an 8% return, your investment earnings generate a modest $800, hardly enough to change your daily life. Your sweat equity carries 90% of the load. But the moment your investable assets cross $100,000, a gravitational shift occurs. At an 8% return, your money suddenly generates $8,000 a year entirely in the background. Without you waking up early, answering an email, or commuting to a job, your capital begins to rival the saving capacity of your labor. The compounding engine achieves escape velocity. Now let's examine the institutional reality inside the banking system. $100,000 in combined deposit and investment balances is the universal demarcation line where major retail banks strip away the retail label and reclassify you as a select, premier, or preferred client. When your account flags as level 3, the customer relationship management software in every branch across the country updates your profile. Instantly, the administrative friction that plagued levels 1 and 2 ceases to exist. All monthly account maintenance fees permanently waived, zero-cost domestic and international wire transfers. Free ATM withdrawals worldwide with third-party surcharge reimbursement, dedicated priority customer service phone queue. Bypassing general hold times, discounted mortgage origination fees, and interest rate discounts. You walk into your local branch and the teller does not ask for your identification. Your card chip automatically identifies your status tier. If you need a cashier's check, a notary signature, or a foreign currency exchange, it is handed to you free of charge. When you dial the customer service telephone number on the back of your debit card, you are not routed to an offshore call center with a 30-minute queue. Your call is prioritized to a senior domestic support desk where an agent answers within 3 rings, greets you by title, and has the administrative authorization to waive charges or approve limit increases on the spot. But the most profound change at level 3 happens inside your own mind. When you have $100,000 in liquid security, you stop operating from financial desperation. You no longer tolerate toxic workplace environments because you know you have years of runway. You stop arguing with family members over small expenses. You stop checking your bank balance before buying groceries. At level 3, you are no longer a victim of the banking system. You have forced the institution to treat you with administrative respect. But as your wealth multiplies 5-fold to 10-fold, you step out of retail banking altogether and into a world where the bank starts competing to win your favor. You have crossed $500,000 and are rapidly approaching the $1 million mark. At level 4, you have officially exited retail banking. You will never take a paper ticket again. You will never stand in a queue behind a rope line. When you arrive at the bank, you are ushered past the main floor into a private advisory wing. You are assigned a dedicated relationship manager, a senior vice president whose direct mobile phone number is saved in your contacts. When you sit down in their office, espresso is served on a slate coaster. The conversation is no longer about checking accounts or basic credit cards. It is about portfolio allocation, tax optimization, and wealth preservation. To the uninitiated, level 4 feels like arriving at financial aristocracy. But if you analyze the business model of private banking with a cold, analytical eye, you uncover the most expensive trap in the entire financial system, the assets under management or AUM fee model. Why is the bank treating you with such extraordinary deference at level 4? Why is your relationship manager inviting you to private golf tournaments and quarterly economic breakfast briefings? Because at $500,000 to $1 million in liquid capital, your account is an immense recurring revenue engine for the institution. If they can convince you to hand over investment discretion, a standard private banking advisory fee ranges from 1% to 1.5% annually. 1% sounds negligible to a casual observer. But on a $1 million portfolio, a 1% annual fee drains $10,000 in hard cash every single year, regardless of whether the market goes up or down. Over a 25-year investing horizon, that single percentage point compounded against your growth will strip over $1 million of future wealth out of your family's estate and transfer it directly into the bank's shareholder equity. This is where the behavior of the silent millionaire diverges from the insecure wealth flexor. The insecure flexor loves the ego stroke of saying, "My private banker at JP Morgan handles all my money." They gladly pay $10,000 to $15,000 a year for the prestige of an engraved business card and a private office meeting. The peak ledger silent millionaire navigates level 4 with ruthless utility. They accept the elevated customer service, the dedicated direct phone lines, the higher daily transfer limits, and the free cashier's checks, but they firmly reject the bank's managed advisory products. They keep their core wealth inside low-cost index funds and direct treasury bills, using the private bank strictly as a secure, high-efficiency operational hub. They know that at level 4, the bank is a courteous adversary trying to harvest their yield. To turn the bank from an adversary into an institutional tool, you must reach level 5, where you unlock the secret weapon of the ultra-wealthy. When your liquid net worth crosses $2 million to $5 million, you enter private wealth management, the true inner sanctum of institutional banking. You are now dealing with entities like JP Morgan Private Bank, Goldman Sachs Private Wealth Management, and Morgan Stanley Private Wealth. At level 5, a fundamental shift occurs in how the financial system interacts with your life. For the bottom 99% of the population, banking is about deposits and cash flow. For the top 1% at level 5, banking is about balance sheet leverage and tax avoidance. Consider how an ordinary person buys a luxury home or funds a business venture. They go to a retail loan officer, submit 3 years of tax returns, hand over W-2 pay stubs, undergo invasive credit audits, and pay origination fees for a 30-year conventional mortgage. At level 5, that entire bureaucratic ordeal is bypassed. Because you hold $2 million to $5 million in liquid equities, index funds, and treasuries inside your brokerage accounts, the bank grants you access to an institutional financial instrument that regular consumers never see, a securities-backed line of credit or Lombard loan. 1. Client holds $3 million in S&P 500 index funds untouched. Compounding 2. Bank extends a $1,500,000 revolving credit line at institutional rate. SAW plus 1.25%. 3. Client buys real estate funds lifestyle with loan proceeds. 4. Result: $0 capital gains tax triggered assets remain compounding. Here's how the mechanics work. The bank establishes a revolving credit facility backed by your investment portfolio, allowing you to borrow 50 to 70% of your portfolio's value on demand. If you want to buy a $1 million investment property or launch a new venture, you do not sell a single share of stock. Selling shares would trigger a massive capital gains tax bill of 20 to 30%. Instead, you write a check against your securities-backed line of credit. The loan is approved in 48 hours with zero tax return audits because your portfolio is the collateral. You pay an institutional negotiated interest rate that sits just above the overnight federal funds rate. Your underlying stocks remain invested in the market, continuing to compound and pay dividends, and those annual compounding gains often exceed the cost of the borrowing interest. This is the foundation of the famous buy, borrow, die strategy used by the ultra-wealthy. You buy high-quality compounding assets. You borrow against those assets for liquidity without ever paying capital gains tax. And when you eventually pass away, your estate transfers to your heirs with a stepped-up tax basis, legally wiping out decades of capital gains tax liability. At level 5, the bank is no longer trying to sell you a credit card with an annual fee. They are acting as your balance sheet partner, lending you cheap institutional liquidity so they can earn a stable net interest margin while your assets remain anchored in their vaults. But there is still one final tier above this, a level where the bank ceases to be your service provider and becomes your supplicant. You have reached 8 figures, $10 million or more in liquid, investable wealth. You are in the top 0.1% of global wealth. At level 6, you do not visit the bank. The bank visits you. If you require an annual review or a complex transaction, the Senior Managing Director of Private Wealth Management drives to your office, your home, or your attorney's boardroom. You are supported by an entire dedicated team, a senior portfolio strategist, a trust and estate tax attorney, a dedicated credit analyst, and a concierge lifestyle officer. Direct access to institutional pay and private credit syndicates, custom structured notes with downside principal protection. Bespoke Lombard lending at SOFR plus 0.65%, dedicated trust and estate tax minimization structuring. Global concierge, private aviation advisory, fine art lending, family governance. The rules of banking at level 6 are not documented in any public brochure. They are negotiated on a custom basis. Standard banking fees are an obsolete concept. If you want a $20 million bridge loan to acquire an apartment complex, your credit analyst does not use an underwriting formula. They present a custom memo to the bank's credit committee. An approval is granted on your signature and relationship reputation. At level 6, banks provide direct access to exclusive private equity syndicates, institutional mezzanine debt funds, and custom structured products that protect your principal against market downturns while offering upside equity participation. If you collect fine art, the bank will lend against your paintings. If you require multi-generational estate governance, the bank's trust department will establish dynasty trusts in zero-income tax states like Delaware or South Dakota, shielding your family's capital from creditors and estate taxes for a century. Why does a global financial institution bend every policy and waive every rule for a level 6 client? Because at $10 million and above, your liquidity represents institutional balance sheet power. If a bank loses a level 6 account to a competitor, it creates a material dent in the branch's regional quarterly reporting. The bank is no longer the authority figure. You are the authority figure. The bank is fighting every day to prove its utility so you do not wire your 8-figure balance to a rival institution down the street. Let's bring this journey back to where we started. When you look across the entire 6-level spectrum of banking, from the $12 maintenance fee trap of Level 1 to the bespoke institutional partnerships of Level 6F, profound philosophical truth becomes clear. At Level 1, you worked for money, and because you had no reserves, the banking institution owned you. You were taxed on your lack of liquidity. At Level 3, when you crossed $100,000, you built enough mathematical armor to force the system to treat you with dignity. And by Level 5 and Level 6, your capital grew so powerful that the banking system transformed into an engine of leverage, working around the clock to serve your interests. True wealth is not about being worshipped by a bank. True wealth is never needing their validation at all. Peak Ledger. But here's the ultimate moral of the story, the core philosophy that drives every silent millionaire on Peak Ledger. The goal of building wealth is not to get a free espresso in a mahogany-paneled office. The goal is not to carry a heavy black titanium debit card to impress a stranger at a dinner party. Those are the shallow and secure trappings of people who want to look rich. The true purpose of climbing from Level 1 to Level 6 is quiet, untouchable sovereignty. It is knowing that the banking system is simply an impersonal utility pipe for moving and protecting capital. When you build wealth in silence, you don't care how many luxury brochures a private banker slides across the desk. You don't need their validation, their prestige, or their social flattery. You use their infrastructure to shield your family, compound your freedom, and buy back the only non-renewable asset on earth, your time. Which level of the banking hierarchy are you currently navigating in your own life? And what is the exact mathematical target you are building toward next? Let me know in the comments below. I read and respond to every story from our community. If this breakdown helped you see the financial machine with clearer eyes, hit the like button and subscribe to Peak Ledger for more data-backed, unvarnished truths on building generational wealth in silence. Until next time, keep your overhead low, keep your compounding quiet, and build your peak in silence.